They don't warn you when life decides to snap you in half. It doesn't knock. It doesn't ask if you're ready. It just hits. And when it does, most people shatter. They cry, explain, blame, beg. But not you. Not if you want to become powerful. Not if you want to rise without asking. See, Machiavelli didn't write for the comfortable. He wrote for the ones who've been betrayed, broken, discarded, because that's when the real game starts. When life strips everything and watches what you do next. Most people try to heal too quickly. They rush to feel better, to rebuild illusions. But the wise, the dangerous, don't flinch. They study their pain like a map. They don't numb it. They dissect it. They sit with it in silence. That silence, it's not weakness. It's weaponry. It's in that storm where you meet your real self. And most can't handle that meeting. They rot in self-pity, addicted to the illusion of rescue. But you, if you train your mind to be cold, focused, detached, you evolve. You stop reacting, you start observing, you stop chasing, you begin building, alone, quietly. Pain isn't your enemy, it's a ruthless teacher. It separates the fragile from the forged, and if you endure it without flinching, it will build you a mind that never collapses again, a mind that can't be manipulated, a mind no one can own. This world doesn't care how you feel. It only responds to what you become. When they leave you in the dark, don't scream, sit still, analyze. Watch your thoughts like a general watches the battlefield. Learn where your weakness lives and starve it. If you feel that shift awakening in you, comment this now. Pain sharpens my power. Write it. Lock it in. That's the beginning of everything. Now let's begin. Never reveal your full intentions. The first rule of power? Never let them know what you're really after. People fear what they don't understand, but if they can read your moves, they'll find a way to block them, or worse, imitate them. You think being honest makes you strong? No. It makes you predictable. It gives your enemies a manual to dismantle you. Every time you say too much, explain too far, or overshare your goals, you leak your advantage. Power flows in silence, in mystery, in the subtle moves they never saw coming. Machiavelli didn't speak in emotions. He spoke in outcomes. He warned, those who speak too openly will lose not just control, but fear. And once they stop fearing you, they start testing you. So why show your whole hand when half of it is enough to dominate? Let them assume, let them guess, let them think they understand you, then outmaneuver them while they're watching the wrong thing. The smart don't shout their strategy, they let their results whisper for them. And the moment someone feels like they know your next move, your power begins to rot. Keep your path blurred, your goals concealed. Speak like a mirror, only reflecting what they want to see. Then strike with clarity when it matters. Comment this now if you understand. My silence is my strategy. Write it, own it, live it. This is how you become untouchable in a world that survives by preying on the obvious. Use absence as power. The powerful understand something the average mind cannot grasp. Presence creates familiarity, and familiarity kills fear. Every time you're too available, too visible, too easy to access, your value drops. Like oxygen, it's everywhere, essential, but no one respects it. Now think about what happens when oxygen is taken away. That's power. Machiavelli warned against the comfort of constant presence. He observed that leaders, warriors, and strategists who overexpose themselves become ordinary, diluted, predictable. And when people begin to expect you, when they feel entitled to your attention, you become a tool, not a force. This is why absence matters. Your absence creates demand. It stirs curiosity. It creates discomfort in their world. It makes them notice what your presence once silenced. And that silence, it screams louder than any word you could say. But don't misunderstand this. Absence isn't retreat, it's strategy. Disappearing at the right time shows power. It sends a clear message. I am not yours. I am not available. I am not common. When you remove yourself suddenly and without explanation, people are forced to confront the space you leave behind, and in that void they question, they doubt, they feel the shift. That's when your influence begins to grow. This applies to personal relationships, social groups, even business. If they always know what you're thinking, where you are, how you feel, what power do you really hold? None. Mystery breeds power. Scarcity builds value. Ask yourself, when was the last time your silence made someone uneasy? If the answer is never, you're too predictable, too safe, too loud. Controlled absence is how you reclaim attention. It makes people earn you, and when they earn access, they respect it. When it's given freely, they exploit it. There's a reason ancient kings didn't walk the streets every day. There's a reason warlords didn't explain every move. There's a reason power always felt distant, because distance creates pressure. So stop explaining your silence, stop justifying your distance. Let people wonder, let them miss you, let them feel the void. That void is where your value multiplies. Comment this now if you feel the truth cracking through your old patterns. My absence creates pressure. Say it, lock it in. That's not a quote, it's a rule. The world doesn't reward what's loud and constant. It respects what disappears, evolves, and returns more dangerous than before. Control your presence, and when the time is right, vanish. Let's move forward. Build loyalty through fear, not love. Love is fragile. It fades, it bends, it shifts with mood, with time, with perception. But fear endures. Fear is rooted in survival. It doesn't need to like you. It needs to not cross you. That's why Machiavelli centuries ago declared it plainly, if you cannot be both, choose to be feared. Because love invites expectations, fear enforces limits. The world has sold you the lie that to be admired you must be liked. But look around. How many people are liked but walked on, praised but ignored, smiled at but never followed? Now ask yourself, who do people obey without question? Who do they never joke with, never challenge, never forget? The one they fear losing, the one whose anger is a storm, not a drizzle. That is power. And power does not negotiate. Loyalty built on love dissolves when love fades. All it takes is a misstep, a miscommunication, or a moment of weakness. Suddenly, the same people who praised you will abandon you. But fear is immune to emotion. It doesn't need to feel safe, it just needs to stay safe. That's why the most loyal soldiers don't follow a leader they love, they follow a leader they fear disappointing. They fear being cast out. They fear the consequences of betrayal. That fear becomes loyalty in its purest form, unquestioning, enduring, useful. But understand this, I'm not talking about cruelty. I'm talking about presence, about psychological weight. You don't have to shout. You don't have to threaten. You just have to make it clear, silently and consistently, that crossing you is never worth the price. That you're capable of detaching, that you never chase, that when disrespected, you don't react. You disappear. You eliminate access, you vanish, and with you goes their sense of safety. That is the fear that builds loyalty. Not trembling, but respect. Not violence, but consequence. Because people remember what happens when they fail you. And if that consequence is emptiness, silence, exile, you become unforgettable. This is why weak men are never truly respected. They confuse kindness for strategy. They overextend, overpromise, and overplease, hoping it buys them admiration. It doesn't. It breeds entitlement. And the entitled are never loyal. They leave the moment someone else gives them more. If you want lasting loyalty, create boundaries so sharp they cut when tested. Make your standards known, not in words, but in what you tolerate. Reward consistency. Punish betrayal, not with chaos, but with disconnection. That silence, that absence, that calm, deliberate removal of your energy. That is what they'll fear. You are not here to be worshipped. You're here to be respected. And respect is born from controlled fear, the kind that doesn't need to yell. the kind that walks into a room and quiets it, the kind that never forgets, never repeats itself, and never gives second chances to disloyalty. So ask yourself, do people fear disappointing you? Do they fear losing you? Or do they treat your presence like background noise, easily replaced, constantly available? Comment this now if you're ready to draw the line that no one dares to cross. My absence is the consequence. Let it be known. Let it be felt. Let it echo in silence. The world doesn't need another man begging to be liked. It needs a mind forged in quiet strength and guarded by distance. Let them love you if they want, but never let that love blind them to the cost of betrayal. Weaponize selective generosity. Most people give to feel good. The powerful give to gain control. This world glorifies kindness, but what they don't tell you is that uncalculated kindness weakens you. It makes you predictable, exploitable, and most dangerously, forgettable. When generosity becomes a habit instead of a weapon, you become everyone's tool. They take, they smile, they nod, but deep down they lose respect. Because true power isn't found in how much you give. It's found in when, how, and why you give it. Machiavelli taught that favors are a form of debt. But here's the trick. People don't respect endless givers. They respect the man whose approval feels earned. The one who rewards silence, who helps not out of compulsion, but out of strategy. That's why when you give something valuable, your time, your resources, your attention, you must ensure it creates dependence, not comfort. When you give too often, your power dissolves into expectation. When you give selectively, your power solidifies into control. You must become the one they never want to disappoint, the one whose generosity is so rare, so sharp that they cling to it, not because it's kind, but because it's powerful. Never help someone unless it strengthens your position. Never solve a problem unless solving it benefits you twice, once through outcome and once through psychological leverage. This isn't cruelty, this is precision. You're not here to feed everyone, you're here to feed strategically. Your value must feel like a favor, not a habit. Because favors are remembered, habits are forgotten. Make them remember. Even in conversation, don't give advice freely. Let silence build tension. Let them ask. Let them need you. Then give something small, but sharp. Something that reveals you see more than they do. That's how power is established without raising your voice. The key is this: your resources must move people emotionally, strategically, psychologically. Your help should feel like a door opening in a locked hallway, something they can't access without you. And the more they feel that, the more control you have. Not by force, but by scarcity. This is how kings operate. This is how shadow players win. Not with loud charity, but with surgical generosity, given to the right person at the right time with the right consequences. And when someone begins to expect your help, you pull back, not to punish, but to remind that your presence isn't a gift, it's a weapon. A weapon they are lucky to be around. So ask yourself, is your help building your influence or draining your energy? Are you being generous or are you being used? Comment this now if you're done being the predictable giver. I give like a king, not a servant. Burn it into your identity. That's the line that separates the manipulated from the strategist. The world may applaud the selfless, but it follows the selective. Make them dependent on you. Power doesn't come from being needed by everyone. It comes from making the right people realize they can't move without you. Dependence is control. It's not about dominance through force. It's about building systems, emotions, routines, and outcomes where you are the constant, where you are the axis around which their world quietly spins. They don't always realize it until you pull away. That's when they panic. That's when they beg. That's when they remember you were the thread holding everything together. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He wrote that it is far safer to be feared than loved. But beyond fear, the true master builds reliance. Because fear may cause obedience, but reliance creates attachment. Fear can trigger rebellion if mishandled, but dependence? It traps people in gratitude, in fear of loss, in a constant internal reminder. I can't afford to lose this person. You want power. Don't be everywhere. Be irreplaceable. Stop offering surface-level presence to everyone and start embedding your value where it creates leverage. Your knowledge, your calm, your skill, your silence. Make those things something others come to need, not just admire. Your goal is not to impress. It's to become essential. This is why the most powerful men don't rush to offer solutions. They let others struggle until they're invited in, and when they enter, they solve with such precision, such decisiveness, that their value becomes engraved in the mind of the person they helped. Now that person can't imagine solving that problem without them again. That's the seed of dependence, and once it's planted, power grows in silence. But here's the trap most men fall into. They help too soon. They give away their energy before it's been earned. They solve problems for people who didn't suffer enough to appreciate the solution. And in doing so, they become forgettable, another option in a world full of options. You must resist that urge. The urge to please, the urge to be helpful, the urge to be liked. Instead, study what they lack. Watch their blind spots. Understand their dependencies better than they do. And, when the moment is right, offer your value in a way that makes them feel the shift. You're not just solving their problem. You're becoming the one who always solves it. That's the difference between a helper and a controller. A servant offers help. A strategist builds systems of reliance. Look around. Most people don't want to think for themselves. They don't want to face consequences. They don't want to take responsibility. They want safety, predictability, structure. If you become the provider of those things, even just in one dimension of their life, you hold an unspoken form of power. And the more they rely on you, the less likely they are to betray you. Why? Because betrayal would mean instability, and the human brain fears instability more than it hates control. Make them dependent on your discipline, on your calm, on your ability to see clearly when they can't. You don't need to manipulate them, just become the only one who doesn't flinch under pressure. The only one who doesn't gossip, who doesn't react emotionally, who doesn't get drawn into chaos. That alone makes you a pillar. And pillars are hard to remove, because everything collapses without them. Let them come to you. Let them think it's their idea. Let them feel the pull of your presence, not because you chased them, but because you quietly became the only one who delivers results. That's how you infiltrate their structure, not as an outsider, but as an essential organ. Take that place and they'll never cut you out. But remember, never let them feel too safe. A person who is too comfortable will eventually forget what made you valuable. Keep a layer of unpredictability, a little distance, the possibility that you might walk away at any time. That's what tightens the bond. That's what makes them careful. That's what preserves respect. It's a delicate balance. Be essential, but not owned. Be available, but not accessible. Be valuable, but not free. You want them thinking, I hope he stays, not, I know he'll stay no matter what. So, ask yourself right now, who truly relies on you? Who fears losing your presence? Who knows that without you things get harder, colder, slower, messier? If no one comes to mind, you're not in control. You're replaceable. Comment this now if you're ready to shift from optional to essential. I don't chase power. I become necessary. Let that sentence bury itself in your psyche. It's not just a quote, it's a psychological weapon. A mantra for dominance. In a world of men who want attention, become the one they can't function without. Not through force, not through noise, through strategic value. Become the storm shelter, become the clarity in their fog. Become the only answer that doesn't come with chaos, and when they depend on you, you own the game. Master the art of emotional withholding. If they can control your emotions, they can control your behavior, and if they can control your behavior, they own you. That's why power begins with one brutal truth. you must become emotionally unavailable to anything that seeks to weaken you. Machiavelli understood that emotions are liabilities, not because they're unnatural, but because they're readable, predictable, exploitable. The man who reacts emotionally is already owned by the one who triggered him. You want to become untouchable? Withhold your emotions. Learn to feel without flinching. Learn to bleed without making a sound. Because the moment they see you panic, beg, chase, explain, justify, you've already surrendered the crown. Emotional outbursts might feel like power, but they are confessions. Every time you express anger recklessly, you're telling the enemy where to push. Every time you explain your disappointment, you're handing out the blueprint to your weaknesses. Control isn't about suppressing how you feel, it's about mastering when, where, and whether it should ever be shown. The emotionally restrained man walks into a room and watches. He studies, he listens without reacting. And in doing so, he collects ammunition while everyone else leaks theirs. He lets others expose themselves while he remains the mystery, emotionally unreadable, tactically invincible. Most people wear their emotions like cheap cologne, loud, obvious, desperate for attention. But the strategist, he's a Volt. Calm when insulted, still when provoked, cold when tested. Because he knows this, the one who stays calm longest controls the outcome. That's the difference between the peasant and the prince. One screams to be heard, the other whispers, and the room falls silent. Machiavelli warned that a prince must appear merciful, faithful, humane, sincere, but be the opposite when necessary. Why? Because appearance manipulates perception, and perception controls outcomes. Emotional withholding gives you that edge. It allows you to wear any mask, to navigate any room, to endure any insult, and still walk out 10 steps ahead. But here's the catch. They'll test you. People will provoke you just to see if you'll break. They'll insult you softly, ignore you, laugh when you speak. All of it is bait. They want a reaction not because they hate you, but because they need to feel above you. The moment you give them that reaction, you validate their position. You become the one who needed the last word. The one who flinched, the one who cracked. Don't give them that satisfaction. Your silence is psychological warfare. Let them think they've won the argument. Let them laugh, interrupt, underestimate. It's all noise, and noise only rattles those without internal control. You watch, you observe, you collect. And when the time comes, you strike, not with emotion, but with timing. That's what makes you feared. In relationships, emotional withholding is even more powerful. Don't be the one always explaining, always apologizing, always emotionally available. Be the one they never quite understand, the one whose silence keeps them awake, the one whose calm feels like judgment. This doesn't mean be cold-hearted. It means be emotionally disciplined. Let your affection be rare. Let your praise be earned. Let your attention be valuable. This creates addiction, not to you, but to the emotional security you refuse to hand out freely. They will crave what you withhold. They will compete for it. Because the human mind values what it fears losing. Be the man whose emotions are not a faucet, but a vault, locked, guarded, mysterious, and when you do choose to open it, they'll feel it like thunder. Ask yourself this: do your emotions serve you, or do they enslave you? Are you triggered by disrespect, or do you weaponize it? Do you chase closure, or do you let silence become their punishment? Comment this now if you're done being emotionally readable. I am calm. I am unreadable. I am in control. Let the world guess what you're thinking. Let them never be sure. That uncertainty is your power. You are not here to be understood. You are here to be remembered. The storm that rages inside you is not for public display. It's for private transformation. You don't owe them access to your thoughts, your reactions, or your pain. You owe them nothing but silence and success. Emotionally detached is not broken. It's focused, it's forged, it's free. When you master your emotions, you master the people who can't. And those people, they will follow you, fear you, or envy you. But they will never control you again. Keep them competing for your approval. Power isn't just about control, it's about positioning. And the most powerful position you can hold is the one they're constantly trying to earn. When people chase your approval, you control the pace. You dictate the rules. You become the mirror they want to please, but can never fully satisfy. That gap between what they give and what you withhold, that's where domination lives. Machiavelli knew that men are more loyal to those whose favor they must fight for, not those who offer it freely. Generosity is not loyalty. Gratitude fades. But competition? That's addictive. People are wired to chase what they can't completely possess. So never give full validation. Give just enough to keep them hopeful, never enough to make them comfortable. When they don't know where they stand with you, they work harder, they think more, they adjust. And in that uncertainty, you create leverage. The most psychologically dominant people aren't the loudest. They're the ones whose silence feels like judgment. The ones whose praise is rare and whose disappointment feels like exile. If you give everyone approval, your validation loses value. You become background noise, disposable. But if you pull back, if you observe instead of affirm, suddenly your attention becomes currency. And everyone wants to get paid. In business, relationships, even friendships, this law holds true. People respect the leader who remains emotionally poised, slightly distant, hard to read. Because they know every moment of closeness is earned. Every word of praise is a reward, and that reward becomes motivation. But be precise. This isn't about manipulation. It's about control through restraint. You're not playing with emotions. You're setting a standard. Your approval should feel like a door unlocking, rare, deliberate, powerful. It should never feel cheap. And when someone violates your standard, don't lecture. Withdraw. Silence speaks louder than anger. Disinterest wounds deeper than insults. When they feel that absence, they'll remember who holds the throne. So ask yourself, who's trying to earn you right now? Who's shifting their behavior to stay in your good graces? If the answer is no one, you're giving too much away. Comment this now if you're ready to stop chasing and start being chased. I reward strength. I ignore weakness. Say it like a law, because that's what it is now. You're not here to be everyone's favorite. You're here to be the one they never want to disappoint. Win through strategic retreat. Sometimes, the strongest move is no move at all. Not every battle is worth fighting. Not every insult deserves a reaction. Not every attack requires your full force. Machiavelli understood this with surgical clarity. The wise man knows when to strike, but more importantly, he knows when to wait. When to retreat. Not in fear, not in weakness, but in precision. Retreat is misunderstood by the emotional. They see it as surrender, as defeat. But the strategist sees it as positioning. Strategic retreat is an art, one that places you above your enemies by refusing to play the game on their terms. When you walk away, you rob them of the outcome they crave. You deny them chaos. You deny them proof that they can control you. Most people fight out of ego. They react out of pride. But pride is predictable, and the predictable are easy to destroy. So when they expect war, disappear. When they expect you to defend yourself, go silent. When they expect a response, observe instead. You are not in the business of reactions. You are in the business of outcomes. Machiavelli warned that the prince must never waste resources or reputation on meaningless conflicts, because every war drains you, even if you win. The smarter play? Let time weaken your enemies. Let their own desperation expose them. Let them burn energy trying to provoke what you withhold freely, your focus. Retreat doesn't mean isolation, it means control over attention. You are not abandoning the battlefield. You are choosing when and where to return. You are observing from the shadows while they exhaust themselves under the spotlight. And when the moment is right, you strike clean, sharp, and silent. This applies in arguments, in betrayal, in manipulation. When someone lies, insults, or underestimates you, don't engage. Let them show their character. Let them become loud. Because the louder they get, the more transparent they become. And the more quiet you stay, the more powerful you appear. Stillness makes people uncomfortable. Silence makes them paranoid. They start unraveling themselves while trying to figure out what you're thinking. That's the advantage of retreat. You don't waste bullets. You study the terrain. You don't burn bridges. You learn who depends on them. You don't throw punches. You document patterns. And by the time you move again, you're not reacting emotionally, you're executing strategically. Ask yourself this: how much energy have you wasted trying to prove a point? To defend yourself against people who didn't deserve your time? What did you win by explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you? Nothing. But when you retreat, you win your time, your energy, your clarity. And in that clarity, you build. So now, instead of chasing closure, you disappear. Instead of seeking validation, you elevate. Instead of battling ego, you conserve strength. You become untouchable because you no longer play predictable games. Comment this now if you're done bleeding energy in empty wars. My retreat to reload. Say it, own it. That's not weakness, that's psychological warfare. The world is addicted to noise. You will dominate by mastering the void. So if you're ready for more, like the video, subscribe to Psi Sigma, and turn on notifications. The war for your mind isn't over, but now you're finally armed.